Hello, and welcome to episode 22 of Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, your premier reaction and recap podcast for the legendary 1988 science fiction OVA. It's weekend at Lennenkampf's, and we're along for the ride. That would be me, your host, Gee, and along for this trip is my co-host, Iro.
Yeah, I think maybe we want to stop in Mittermeyer's on the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He might be able to help us out in this weird jam of ours.
I think he's got a guest room or two.
Yeah, yeah, and I think Mittermeier of all the admirals would be like the right combination of dumb and trusting enough that like if you paraded Lennenkampf's makeup corpse,
he's very tired. He's just sleeping.
yeah, I feel like Mittermeier is like the one admiral.
Oh man, we need to keep it down. He needs to get his rest.
Right, like, oh, I'm sorry, Lennenkampf really wanted to say something, but he's so, oh, look, he's just so tired. He's just so tired from the trip. Oh, don't, ignore the sunglasses. We're going to take him up to the guest room if you don't mind, Mittermeier. Thanks so much. This really means a lot to us. Just please don't disturb him. He's very tired.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But, yeah, so, before we get ahead of ourselves here, we're talking about another interesting trio of episodes of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. That would be episodes 61, 62, and 63.
Yes, respectively, An Invitation to the Opera, Cascades of Blood, and Holy Ground. Yes.
As we all remember from, last time that everybody, I was going to say the FPA, but no, it's more like literally everybody has once again made the fatal mistake of bothering young Wenli, and in these episodes we kind of begin to see the the long-standing consequences and the fates that befall those who would trigger his almighty wrath.
I remember saying in the predictions for season 3 episode that like, oh, I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of like politics and standing around and stuff, and then we get to the trio of episodes, which is a lot of shooting and murder.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I almost feel like in a weird way, like maybe like I don't know if this is actually accurate or it's just my perception, but it almost feels like the ratio of action has actually gone up since the beginning. You know, like more and more crazy shit has happened. Like in season 1, you basically had like Iserlohn. That was kind of it.
Right.
I guess you kind of had like Kirky Eyes' death, but like I wouldn't really call that an action sequence. But
right, you get you had like a couple space battles, but
right. I kind of at this point I kind of distinguish between the two. Like
yes,
like there are space battles, and then there's crazy shit. And what we've gotten a lot of in these couple of episodes is crazy shit. We should probably just get right into it because oh boy, there are some going-ons on Heinesinopolis
indeed
this week.
In episode 61, Yang Wenli has been detained,
yes,
as we saw, and eating his prison food, and Lebello comes in to talk to him.
Yeah.
And let the record show I warned you about Lebello.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, I think
Lebello tried to be a fucking cop.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. I mean, there's a conversation Lebello has towards the end of this trio of episodes that I feel like, again, doesn't redeem him in my eyes, but does a good job of, like, explaining where his mindset comes from.
Yeah.
Like, because in many ways, both him and Yang basically, broadly want, the same thing. Or at least on paper they do. Lebello's actions begin to speak differently, of course, but, on paper they wanted to the same thing. And I guess where the vital, like, dividing point between them was basically how much they thought they could get away with poking the Empire. Like, Yang calculated, and I guess as we tragically finds out, like, miscalculates, like, how far he could push the Empire before they would, retaliate.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Bello wants to take no chances whatsoever.
Right. Like, Lebello, is kind of taking the kind of the path of like, better to like, toil under the, under the boot than to be stamped out entirely, but I mean, it's definitely like, obviously this is a whole conversation we could get into that I don't think we need to at the very beginning of this podcast, but I think it very much does speak to this idea of like, you know, like wanting to fix the system from within the system, which I think is Lebello's like, mentality is like all well and good, but like how valid is it really when the system we are talking about is the Galactic Empire, like that kind of change isn't going to come in frankly any way other than revolutionary violence because
Yeah.
If Jessica Edwards can't even fucking like peacefully protest to get laws changed in the nominally democratic, FPA, like what are the chances of like peacefully proposing, democracy in fucking Reinhardt's empire?
Yeah, and I mean, Lebello and Young basically talk about this. And
yeah.
Lebello basically says it's your duty to, sacrifice your, like, as you've done for so long, you need to sacrifice yourself for the good of
right. I mean, Lebello's basically already talking about Yang Wenli in the fucking like
past
retrospective
tense.
In the past tense in this episode.
Future historians will speak of you as a great and honorable man.
Yeah, and it's like it's a really kind of twisted logic, and again, despite me trying to like maybe like play devil's advocate for Lebello here, as we kind of see through his actions rather than his words, that like for better or worse, unfortunately, Lebello turns out to not turns out not to walk the walk as much as he talks the talk. Right. He talks all this yang about like self-sacrifice and for the greater good, but like as we find out with as we see with Schenkopp's diatribe later, like even if this is all even if we're being charitable and saying Lebello is well-meaning, he's still doing what all people in power do, which is asking people beneath them to sacrifice themselves for this nebulous greater good that only the higher ups will live to enjoy.
Yep. I mean, Young's like, I sympathize with your situation, with like the bad situation we're all in, but also I don't really want to die.
Yeah, and kind of they reach an impasse, so we kind of move on.
Young realizes he needs to buy some time because they're pretty much dead set on executing him.
Yes. Young has basically read the room that like either they will execute him, either they will do it publicly or behind closed doors. It doesn't really matter. The FPA, the FPA leadership wants Yang dead one way or another by the end of like this night. So we kind of cut to the ruins of the government HQ, right? And it turns out that the FPA is running a underground FPA headquarters.
It's like their counterintelligence or whatever.
Yeah, and we find out that unfortunately,
I mean, they were supposed to be keeping an eye on Schenkopp and Dusty and Yang Wenli's cohorts, but the Rosenritter have gotten involved.
Right, unfortunately, they were not able to capture Schenkopp and Dusty because the Rosenritter showed up and did what they do best.
And though they do bring up basically that like even if they were not straight rebelling as they are now, that because the Rosenritter is all Empire exiles, now that the FPA is under the Empire's control, they probably would have been dealt with anyway.
Yes. I mean, there's definitely they kind of bring up that good point that like we've kind of talked about the effects of the Empire's occupation of the FPA territory, but like definitely one of the things is definitely got to be in fact, I'm surprised nobody in the Empire has actually mentioned the Rosenritter much, like not even Lennenkampf, because I feel like if you're an Empire like admiral, I feel like the very existence of the Rosenritter is like a spit in your eye. Like,
right.
Here is this extremely elite, competent, powerful, like
Empire people.
Right. Like military unit of like the descendants of Empire defectors. Who are literally beating you at your own game every time you meet,
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised that, like, one of the very first things they, didn't do, like, upon occupation is, like, the immediate dismantling
It's
of the
only been
Rosenritter.
like a month and a half, so
I don't know, man. They managed to fucking arrest Yang in a month and a half. Like, you
yeah,
think,
but Young
like,
Wenli is the important one.
yes. But anyways, yes. So the Rosenritter, yes, they bring up the good point that regardless of how they handled Yang, like the Rosenritter were always going to like be a problem eventually because the very nature of their existence is problematic for diplomatic relations. But we find out that Bogdashu is along for the ride, helping
Yeah,
out
I'm
with.
kind of disappointed he is not there on Earth to bail out Yulian,
Yeah,
but I mean,
I I feel like this episode or Bogdashu's presence continues the fucking trend that Bogdashu is maybe not actually that great of a spy. like Bogdashu, like Young asked Bogdashu at the end of season 2 to go spy on the Earth cult to like dig up some dirt on them.
right.
And like we thought, oh man, we're gonna finally see Bogdashu strut his stuff, but like
I guess he's still just hanging out in Heinesen.
it turns out that Bogdashu's debut appearance was actually perhaps more indicative of his spying ability than we assumed, because
He's bad at it.
he's not very good at it. If your leader says spy on the Earth cult and you're still here on Hydacin, like. But it turns out that Bogdashu is good for something, as we'll find out. Find out later.
Yeah, Dusty also talks about his diary, his tell-all diary that he's been writing about the war.
Yeah.
And one day he'll write his memoirs, and it'll become a bestseller.
Yeah,
and he'll be able to live off the royalties.
Yeah, look. Dusty is thinking ahead. He's thinking for the future. Like,
yeah,
gotta have this stuff planned out. Like, because like we don't need to get into it too much, but like like looking at Dusty, like look, I think that one of the major themes of this trio of episodes that we can all agree on is Schenkopp is rapidly burning through his plot armor.
Yep.
I fear for Schenkopp. We'll get into this later, but like I genuinely fear for like Schenkopp. Like, I mean, we always knew Schenkopp was not gonna make it to the end of this show, but now I'm very like afraid of like Schenkopp's survival in even just like the next half a dozen episodes. But Dusty, I'm actually not sure how I feel on Dusty. Like Dusty is not such a major character that like him dying would necessarily cause a huge impact, and as a result, I wonder if that somehow, by being a less major character, I wonder if that actually grants him a little bit of protection. Like
yeah, it wouldn't be a. It's could kind of go either way.
I guess the way I mean, maybe I'm trying to be a little too meta here, but like Schenkopp dying would be a big deal. Because like Schenkopp has been so instrumental to like Yang's success on so many different levels. Like, of course, it's been the Rosenritter as a whole, but like Schenkopp embodies their spirit. And as we see with like the speech that Schenkopp gives in this episode, Schenkopp is actually maybe one of Yang's greatest believers.
Yeah.
No,
so, like, I don't know if anybody supports Young Wenli as hard as Schenkopp.
Yeah,
other than maybe Yulian or Frederica.
Yeah, totally. Whereas, like, that's what I mean, though, like, versus Dusty, who's, like, kind of just
hanging.
Dusty's just kind of along for the ride, like,
yep.
But, anyways, so, yes, so Schenkopp talks about how we're going to carry out the next part of the plan, and, basically, we're going to become the violent extremist rebels they want to paint us as. So, is this the part where, wait, I'm sorry. Is this the part where they go after Lebello, or does that come later?
Well, Lebello first is like, oh crap, this is not going on how I planned. Let me call Olibera.
Right. He goes to Olibera for help, and of course Olibera, the fucking snake.
Like, man, Olibera, everything's gone to shit. Schenkopp got away. The Rosenritter are in revolt. Like, the thing you told me to do isn't working, man.
Right, of course, Olibera, the fucking, like, literal, like, fucking rat-think piece of shit that he is like, I'm not the one who carried out the order. I just merely suggested what you should do. I had no involvement.
I have no responsibility in this. By the way, can you get some armed protection for me?
It's just like, what a fucking piece of shit. Like, I mean, Olivera has not shown up nearly as often as some of the other like biggest pieces of shit in the show, but like,
yeah,
I feel like at this point I'm ready to put Olivera up there with like Andrew Fork.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
like in terms of like biggest pieces of shit, like of course, you know, and like the thing that annoys me is like guys like him and Andrew Fork is like not only are they big, they you know fucking you know assholes, but like they're not even assholes at the top. They're like fucking
middle manager,
fucking petty, shitty middle manager dirtbags who like still have enough power to like sway things in like the most like fucking petty goddamn ways. And
yup,
you know, I don't know, like in the same way that we haven't seen the last of Job Trunit, like you know,
that's right.
My fear is that we are not done with Olivera, you know, fucking things up behind the scenes.
Yeah,
because I feel like this scene was specifically written to kind of like say, "Oh, this is how Olivera gets out of this," you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so
yeah, so Lebello goes on the run basically, but on the road behind him, a bunch of Rosenritter jeeps.
Yes, gets ambushed by the Rosenritter, including one fucking Schenkopp in military fatigues and a bazooka. Which
what
is
a great like scene.
So fucking good. Yeah, they just like fucking
Cobb just pops out of the top of his Jeep with his bazooka, blows a car up.
It just blows the shit out of Lebello's like, you know, like delegate, escort, you know, escort. Yeah. And like, you know, they fucking corner him and you know, we get this great shot of Schenkopp shouldering this rocket launcher, fucking smirking like the motherfucker he is. And what we actually get here before they capture him, in fact, perhaps you know, this is just one of those situations where like, you know, this is for, you know, dramatic effect. I was gonna say Schenkopp, despite, you know, maybe the time sensitive nature of this mission,
talking is free action,
decides to take a couple minutes to give a real verbal dressing down of Lebello. In fact, it's maybe one of my favorite speeches in this show.
Schenkopp goes, as much as he plays devil's advocate to Yang Wenli sometimes, he also, you know, is firmly within Yang Wenli's camp.
Yeah, no, he is. And like, you know, like of course Lebello is trying to be like, oh, isn't this going a bit too far? Or like, you know, how can you do this? Like, how can you do this for Yang? And like, you know, don't you understand, like, for the greater good, blah, blah, blah. And we have this great bit about Schenkopp where he's like, you know, you can cry all, like, you know, the fake hypocritical tears you want, but like, you know, at the end of the day, you're just like any other politician. You are happy to like cut off as many limbs as it takes, shoot as many horses as it requires, as long as you are safe in the end. You know, like, of course, you know,
who for you, hiding away and sacrificing your nation, like the people of your nation, like, but you're still safe.
Yeah, like, you know, you will shed the obligatory tears for those who are fallen, for those who bravely sacrifice their lives for the greater good. But like at the end of the day, those tears don't mean jack shit, because at the end of the day, people are dead, but you are not. Like, you know, as Schenkopp puts it, like, you know, you may be happy cutting off the arm or the leg, but how do the arms and legs feel about that? It's
Yup. And they capture him.
Yeah. And so they capture him, you know, put him in the van, tie him up, and then we finally get Bogdashu showing actually
command.
Yeah, we turns out that Bogdashu may not be a very good spy, but he's a pretty good hacker, because he literally hacks the FPA headquarters mainframe to get a direct line to them.
Just put Schenkopp on the video phone.
Yes, yeah. And Dusty's there too, for some reason.
Right. Making like faces in the background.
Yeah, which is very just like, again, it's like, fucking Dusty, what are you even doing here?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love Dusty, but also, like, I saw, you know, like, beyond being another loyal man to Yang, it's like, what is Dusty actually? I mean, I guess Dusty did that one trick that one time with the exploding containers, and
take that Lennenkampf.
Yes, and that was enough to like kind of, you know, earn him his stripes.
Yeah, but Schenkopp basically tells you know, FPA goons here that we have Lebello, and we're willing to trade him for Yang Wenli and also 100 cases of fine wine.
Yes, yes. I kind of love this. Like, it's kind of a fucking like. I mean, it very much speaks to like just how great the dynamic is with like Yang's cabinet, so to speak. But like, you totally get this feeling of like Schenkopp is like delivering these demands, and like even though you don't see it on screen, you can almost feel like Dusty is like whispering from off screen to
Right.
Schenkopp, like, don't forget the wine. Like,
We're still just kind of fucking around.
I mean, yes,
Just a
like,
little bit.
yes, they're fucking like they know the situation is serious, but like these are the kind of guys that are like so fucking good at their jobs they could still feel confident, in like the situation they're in. And of course, that reason is that we find out that Schenkopp and the rest of them have no illusions that they will actually honor, their this agreement. Like they will, in fact, like the moment they gave this message, they kind of know that rather than actually deal with them, the FPA will likely just go execute Yang,
Right.
to like.
But also because they know that the Alliance is trying to execute Yang in the first place to like avoid bringing the Empire down their heads. They also leak the entire conversation to the Empire.
Yes, which is so good. So of course we get the scene of freaking Lennenkampf attending an opera.
Yeah,
and he's like really annoyed. He's like, "Why isn't Lebello here? Like he said he'd be here like 10 minutes ago or something."
Right.
It's like,
but he's been captured. Time to for Lennenkampf to go back to his office and yell at some FPA guys and argue about whether the Empire should interfere or not.
Right, and of course Lennenkampf being Lennenkampf, kind of
wants an excuse for the Empire to slam down.
Oh yeah, totally. He has been itching for this moment. So of course he mobilizes the military immediately. Sends them to the consulate. Where Yang is being held.
Right. So, but FPA guy is like tries. He wants to get this over with. So just walks into Yang's cell with a gun.
Yeah. We have this kind of a fun little conversation here where you can tell that this is very much like Yang Wenli, in many ways appears completely unflappable, but also he is talking out of his ass here to buy time. Like,
right.
Where fucking dude is like, you're the Achilles heel of the FPA. And Yang's like, well, the Achilles heel is actually a pretty important part of the body if you think about it.
Yeah.
Fucking takes a shot at Yang, and like Yang, I don't know whether he actually meant this or by, pure fucking miracle, just fucking falls over in his chair.
Right. Which, dodges the bullet.
First shot, I kind of love it.
He's Miracle Yang, man. He's the magician.
I love the stupid exchange because this asshole's like, huh, so this is Miracle Yang? And it's like, yo, dog, he just dodged a bullet. Of course he's fucking Miracle Yang. And, about to finish him off, but gets fucking blasted by Frederica.
Frederica just shoots him in the head.
Yeah, fucking.
She just shot that guy.
Yeah, like...
Killed him, man.
Like, I think, like, straight up, like, I mean, oh, wait, no. I guess, I was about to say, like, I think we've seen Frederica kill someone on screen before, Julian. But I guess Julian was a starfighter pilot and he blew up a lot of shit. But like, I mean, if you talk about like, have we ever actually seen Julian in person shoot somebody? Like,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So like,
he has shot down a number of ships.
Oh yes. I guess what I mean is like, we always joked about Julian being like always fucking ready to pull out the pistol for Yang, but
right.
Turns out that Frederica is actually the one, who's gunning dudes down for her man.
Yeah, saved her husband.
Yeah, it's a lovely moment. Of course, Schenkopp shows up after looking all fucking smug and shit.
Oh yes, yeah, fucking like, sir, we've come to save you, my liege, or whatever.
Yeah, it's very funny and like. Yeah, so they basically bust Yang out.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the end of the first episode. Yeah,
Oof.
And man, it's a crazy one for sure. Just like
so much for Yang Wenli's 5-year plan.
Yeah. I mean, like they literally had a bit at the very start of this episode where the narrator is like, Yang seriously miscalculated how quickly things would escalate. It's like, man, fucking understatement of the year, dude. Like,
yeah.
It's like, it's just so fucking, like, I don't know if the word tragic is right, but it's just so fucking sad. Like, not even just like the whole like Yang not getting to enjoy a
He
little bit
can't
of civilian life,
he
but
can't
like
catch a fucking break.
he literally can't catch a break. It's like, and it's like, again, this is kind of what we talk about. Where it's like, is Yang blessed? Is he lucky? Like, in some ways he is, but also like always to his own detriment. You know, like every
Yeah.
time he survives, every time he has a stroke of luck, a stroke of luck, you know, every time like his master plan works, like it just drags him deeper in, you know,
Yup.
like he can like truly born in the wrong era, like you know, it's just this is a man who just doesn't want to deal with any of this, but like he is just like shackled by his obligation, you know, to the people he cares about and to the ideals he holds true. And
Yeah.
and of course it's just like, you know, it's just like the Battle of Vermilion, right? Where like Yang is like lamenting, like, if I just had 1,000 ships, no, 500, no, even 100 more ships, like he he always just like he is always just fucking up against the wall, and like he is always just struggling to get fine or gain even like inches of leverage. And like it's here the same thing, like, you know, I'm sure like Yang is probably thinking in his head, if I had just even 2 more years, no, 1 more year, no, six
Right.
months even
Yeah.
6 months would have like allowed me to like, you know, put together some kind of contingency. But like less than 2 months, like it's just he is constantly thrown, like we always talk about, like, you know, how like Legend of the Galactic Heroes constantly ups the status quo. You know, it never settles into a status quo, right?
Yeah.
And like it feels like it even does that to like Yang's struggles. Like fucking when you look at Yang Wenli's like fucking like career over the lifetime of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, man, like it makes capturing Iserlohn look easy. Like like if
The
Yang
crazy
had,
shit he's been involved with for the
yeah,
past several years
like
without stopping.
like Yang Wenli started this show by taking the
Right,
uncapturable
right.
fortress with half the size of a normal fleet. And like now here in episode 61, I'm like, man, if Yang still had that fleet, like that
Right.
fucking half strength fleet, imagine the things he could have accomplished. But like he doesn't even have that much. He doesn't even have like 10% of that. Like it's, and somehow he keeps trying, you know.
Yeah.
But
And
in
so,
case we all thought that, you know, there wasn't enough crazy shit in this
yep.
trio of episodes.
Yeah, and episode 62, you know, he's still on the run,
Yep.
just talking with his buddies, and Schenkopp is basically saying, so you gonna take power now?
Yes. I mean, look, like we said, Schenkopp is Yang's greatest like believer, but also he is always going to be the guy who's like, you know, you could just become like king or president or whatever. Like
Mhm.
it would probably fix a lot of the problems with the FPA. But
Yeah, and I mean, and Yang basically says this isn't a game of dare.
yeah,
We can't just ask me to do that.
yeah.
You guys are way too optimistic of our chances of facing both of the Empire and the FPA.
But yes, so, you know, they tabled that conversation once again. And
You know,
I mean,
yeah.
look, Young's never going to seriously consider it, but I think that as long as Schenkopp is around, he is always going to like. And here's the thing, you know, I think it's always been a case of like Schenkopp isn't advocating this because like he's some like kind of Oberstein-esque like yes, get more power, you know. But I think Schenkopp advocates it because he genuinely believes that like if he was in a place of leadership, Yang truly would like, you know, strive to fix,
Mhm.
you know, what is, you know, up till now been an inherently broken system.
Yeah.
But
Also,
regardless,
Bears mentioning Frederica brought a nice picnic basket with sandwiches and
you're right. I
a
forgot.
little thermos of tea with brandy.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I had forgotten about that. God bless. God bless Mrs. Young.
Indeed.
But so yeah, so they get back to their hideout, where Lebello and Yang confront each other. You know,
Right.
Yang kind of basically outlines his demands. He's basically like, hey, like, we'll hand you back over safely to the FPA as long as, like, you know, arrange a way for us to get out of here, like guarantee the safety of my subordinates, because
Right.
like
And yeah, and
a lot of
Lebello is just like, how dare you ask such things, if when the weight of the FPA was once upon you.
yeah, like I mean, fucking again, it's just like for better or worse, we kind of tragically see Lebello's true colors come out here, like, for all that talk, at the end of the day, like, he will do what every politician does, I guess. But you know, but he says at the end of the day, like they kind of come to a quiet agreement that like Yang says, okay, fine, like if nothing else, like, you know,
Leave my friends alone.
yeah, like just for the sake of appearances, like I get that you have to like even now Yang is still looking out for the FPA. He's like, look, I get it, like the Empire is keeping a tight leash on you, like.
Mm-hmm.
For the sake of appearances, like you could still answer to them, but at least like, at least guarantee me this
Like
much.
he basically agrees to, like take all the blame.
Yeah,
himself.
like I will become the villain in this story. Just like, leave my friends alone.
Right.
And we kind of have a good bit here where Bogdashi's basically saying like, the FPA is fucking ready to backstab each other at any goddamn second.
Yup.
Like it's a real powder
Yeah, like
keg.
they'll agree now because we have a knife to their throat, but
like the second we
yeah.
relax, like they'll fucking go for it.
They'll just kill us all if they could get away with it.
Yeah. So turns out that the next part of their operation is they need to capture Lennenkampf. They need leverage to get off planet.
Right.
And Lennenkampf is holed up in his kind of in his base, guarded by
in Hotel Shangri-La.
Yes, guarded by
of course
all sorts of dudes.
I like the idea of Lennenkampf, as the steward of the FPA, decides to make his office in a 5-star hotel.
Yes, it's a real power move. But yeah, so turns out that we're not done with crazy shit because the fucking Rosenritter are in the walls.
Yeah, Lennenkampf starts making plans to fortify his base, but the Rosenritter are already underground, climbing the elevator shafts.
They are in the vents. They are in the elevator shafts. They are coming up from underneath the floorboards.
They are cutting dudes down with their power axes.
The Rosenritter are just pouring into this goddamn building and going to town on these Empire goons. And they cut off all methods of escape. They destroy all the elevators. They blow up almost all of the staircases.
Right.
Unfortunately, one manages to escape unscathed. So we get this great bit where fucking Schenkopp is literally just fucking standing at the top of this stairway.
Like, I'll hold this staircase by myself.
Fucking just
let me send my squatty here to
go capture Lennenkampf.
Yeah.
And he's like, in the meantime, I will just single-handedly hold this fucking stairway against these other like Empire power armor dudes. It's we get this great bit where like these
young
dumbasses
man charges
right. These dumbasses keep charging up the stairway one at a time, which I mean, considering how narrow it is, and like considering the weapons, maybe they have to. I mean, I think that's why Schenkopp is holding the staircase. But like, yeah, we get this great bit where like this like fucking green rookie charges Schenkopp, and Schenkopp just easily parries him, holds him at fucking axe point, and is just like, "Young man, do you have a girlfriend?"
I guess I'll let you live because you're a girlfriend.
Yeah, and he's
Schenkopp getting lenient now that he needs a father.
Yeah. He's thinking now about all these young men he's killed. Fucking knocks him out, sends him careening down the stairs, but not so nice to the rest of the Empire Dragoons who run up there because by the time that the Rosenritter come back with Lennenkampf in tow, we see just Schenkopp standing on the top of a stairway that is just drenched in blood. Like blood is just pouring down the steps.
This episode's eponymous Cascades of Blood.
Yeah, it's fucking like if you had any doubt up until this point that Lennenkampf is not, I mean, not Lennenkampf, my bad, that Schenkopp is not just the fucking most, like, singularly dangerous individual in close quarters combat,
Yeah.
like, I'm still fucking stunned Ranthal somehow got out of that scrape. Like,
Yeah.
you know? But
Who do you think will win, Schenkopp or Yulian Mashenko 2-on-1?
oh, I think after this episode, dude, it's no question Schenkopp is way too fucking powerful. Like, I like Julian, I like Mashenko, but like,
Okay, what about Yulian Mashenko Poplin 3-on-1?
I mean, maybe if Poplin gets a lucky throw with the syringe, but like, again, it's just like, though even those three dudes, like, they're not bad in a fight, but
Right.
like,
okay, what about High Admiral Ovlasor versus Schenkopp?
see, that is maybe a bit closer, but the problem is that Ovlasor is a dumbass.
Right, Ovlasor
So, like,
will fall for Team Rocket Special. I don't
right,
think Schenkopp will fall for Team Rocket
yeah,
Special.
I think Schenkopp is a bit smarter. He's a bit more tactical. Like, I think maybe Ovlasor is probably like probably stronger and like tougher in terms of like brute strength.
Uh-huh.
But like, you know, I think Schenkopp would play it smart. You know, he would like he would you know, he would feint and parry and like tire out Ovlasor first. You know, lure him over, you know, a fucking covered pit full of spikes or something. Because again, Ovalasor's not that smart. So
yeah.
but yeah, so they capture Lennenkampf and they take him back to their hideout.
There's a fun scene here where their Rosenritter dude, whose name I still can't remember, just the number 2 guy.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either. And also, isn't he like the new number 2 guy?
Right, because the blonde one left with Yulian
yeah,
to go. Well, left with Operation Sherwood, rather.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's tying up Lennenkampf, and Lennenkampf is like, you know, aren't you formerly Empire? Like, aren't you betraying your fatherland?
And, you know, this dude gives a great bit about, like, well, the fatherland killed my grandfather for like
supporting democracy.
Yeah. So, so if you want to think about it that way, you could say that the fatherland betrayed me first. Which is, it's like it's definitely that thing of like, it's not a very long or nuanced conversation, but
right.
like I feel like like a lot of like the Empire admirals, because Reinhardt chose them, are cut from a more like
classical cloth,
or some of them are cut from a more nuanced cloth. Like I think like if you sat down and had a conversation with guys like Mittermeier or even Royenthal, like, and you explain to them like why the Rosenritter are who they are, like I feel like they could at least logically understand, like, oh, I guess it's sensible in the sense, like, even if they don't agree, they would at least understand that, well, our country fucked them, fucked them over first. Like, it only stands to reason that, like, they would join with our enemies, right?
Right.
But, like, you have, like, a guy like Lennenkampf, who is very much cut from that classical admiral cloth, like death before dishonor, as we find out. Like,
yes.
And so, like, you could kind of see, like, a guy like him very much struggling to even understand, like, what the words are coming out of this Rosenritter dude's mouth. Like, he doesn't even get it. And
yeah, and also, but we do get a great shot of him just totally baffled when he sees that Lebello sold him out. Basically,
I mean, not just Lebello, that also Yang Wenli is there.
Yeah, he's been defeated by Yang Wenli once again.
Yeah, like you see his look when Yang Wenli walks through the doorway, and Yang Wenli's like, "Sorry, bitch, I'll live again." It's like,
I'm back.
It's like, does that make it? Bitch. Yeah. It's like, does that make it fucking 3 for 3 against Lennenkampf? Like, man,
yeah, I think so.
Like, it's like, again, like, for better or worse, Lennenkampf is like, he is a fuck. I feel so bad. I always forget his name. Kev. Like, he's like a Kev tier admiral, like,
right,
where like he's just kind of doomed to always get, fucking, dunked on by Yang Wenli.
Yes.
But it is so fucking satisfying.
And so Schenkopp goes to toss the in theory, they no longer need Lebello, so they just go toss him into the park somewhere.
Yeah.
But Lennenkampf hung himself
Yes, but it turns out
because
that
we
they
fucking left a bunch of rope in his cell.
yeah, it's definitely one of those weird contrivances that I feel like I find both believable and believable, but not I'm not super happy with it either way. Like
Right.
like you would think guys like crack team commandos like the Rosenritter would know like never leave a prisoner with any means to like either escape or suicide. Like I
Yeah.
mean it's one of those things where it's like you know I'm not going to say this is a humane thing to do, but like general standard operating procedure when treating like captured POWs, at least initially, is like you basically put them almost naked in a completely empty cell. Like you don't even leave furniture in there because like
Right.
furniture could be you can break a table leg and turn it into a weapon. You can pull out nails and like
Yeah. Yeah.
you stab somebody with them. Like you leave them with literally nothing because like
They'll figure out
you
something.
they'll figure out something if you give them enough time, right? But at the same time, like I guess the weird thing for me is like because Legend of the Galactic Heroes does its homework so often and like does things so
Right.
like
Something like this stands out more as contrived.
yeah,
Right.
but also contrived. But again, what I'm about to say is actually and in this situation weirdly believable.
Yeah.
And the reason I say this is because the rest of Legend of the Galactic Heroes is so grounded and thought out. Like in some ways, it almost makes more sense to me that they would slip up like this because in human history is riddled with stories of people doing everything right like 9 out of 10 times,
And then
but
the
then
one time they don't fucked
like
up everything.
right, but then the one time they're asleep at the wheel is also the one time it should have mattered the most, and it all goes to shit. Like I won't go into too many tangents on this one because it's not as relevant, but like if you study like the history of espionage in World War II, or even just like political assassinations in World War II, like you find out that like to the man, almost every single successful espionage operation during World War II by both sides succeeded almost always due to a combination of proper planning, sheer luck, and just the right person being asleep at the wheel. Like it's almost always goes that way because like just like it's kind of just human nature to fuck up, honestly.
Yup.
Like,
It's met over and over.
but but yes, regardless of whether it's contrived or thought out or whatever, point is Lennenkampf is dead,
Right?
which is a bit.
They basically say, "Well, shit, that's our hostage. We already let Lobello go, so I guess we better trick everyone into thinking that Lennenkampf's still alive."
Right. So we get the very fucking romantic scene of Yang trying to
I actually kind of like the scene
I
of
no no no.
just
I really like this scene in many ways because of like fucking how like weird and awkward it is, but also like
like
how genuinely heartwarming it
Young
is.
like feels that he has to apologize for making his wife kill a man and apply makeup to a corpse because
And
of
not
him. Like,
yeah, and I mean not just that stuff, but just the whole like sorry our peaceful marriage didn't even last more than 2 months. Like
right, like
like you could feel that like because we know who Yang is, like because we have seen his personality, we've seen his inner thoughts up till now. I think like even if they don't say it on screen, we know that Yang, because of who he is, must feel fucking awful. Like he must feel
right,
so guilty that like because I mean in many ways, right? Isn't this exactly what Yang talks about when he first proposes to Frederica? Like why
right.
he like hesitated for so long because he felt like Frederica marrying him would only like ruin her life, and like
Yeah.
not to say that that's necessarily like happened, but like in many ways, that it at least Yang believes that like
Mhm.
by marrying me, you are now like a fugitive. Now you've
I've done
taken
nothing. I've done
lives and
nothing to like make things worse for you.
yeah, and like you can just like whether it's valid or not, you totally understand like why Yang feels that way, and like we get this really lovely, heartwarming moment from Frederica where she's like, "Don't apologize. Like I don't regret a second of it. Like
Yeah.
you know." and it's just
Once
like,
I'm with you, my life will always be interesting.
well, yes, but
And Yang thinks to himself here, to be forced towards an ignoble death, or to be forced to live an ignoble life, which is closer to happiness.
oh boy, big mood.
I don't know, man. I don't know, Yang Wenli.
But who gives a fuck about that?
Yeah, they,
Because they successfully,
Rosenritter
they
strong arm their way to the spaceport, and we steal a bunch of shuttles, and we ditch this fucking
yes,
burger
they
joint.
pull off their weekend at Bertie's plan where
Get out of
they're
Dodge.
fucking carting, fucking Lennenkampf's corpse through the hangar. They're like, no, he's just very sleepy. Shh, be quiet, be quiet. And then we get this fantastic scene of
Oh my god.
Pirate Dusty.
It's real! I didn't expect it to be real.
Turns out that image of Pirate Dusty from the Legend of Galactic Heroes Gotcha game is not it was not made up for the game. That's a real costume.
Right, that's because it's like we had seen some of the event banners for that game, including the Halloween ones, which had Mueller Iron Shield in his knight outfit, and Dusty Attenborough in a goofy pirate costume, and it's
right.
And assumed, it's Halloween. It's
right,
put Dusty in a goofy ass pirate costume. Okay,
yeah, we just
a fucking pirate suit.
It's ridiculous.
Dusty,
like, yeah, like we all just assumed, for this event they made Dusty a pirate. Haha, that's funny. No, turns out sometime in between kidnapping Lennenkampf and getting a shuttle off planet,
put on a pirate outfit.
Dusty found the time to put together a very convincing pirate outfit, like fake hook hand included. Like,
what is going on, man?
Where did he get this? Like, and I think this is why I say, I love Dusty, but also, does this maybe speak to, what Dusty contributes to the group? That apparently, while they were in the middle of this very hectic, very, hush-hush operation, Dusty...
Yeah, so in his cosplay.
Dusty had time to fucking go to a costume shop and ooh, that one. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh, give me the hook hand, too. Is it just like Dusty was like, Dusty's, hey, can I help with anything? And everybody's like, nah, Dusty, just fucking do your thing, I guess.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But also great.
It's so good. It's so good.
And, Cazerne just calls his wife to basically say, yeah, we're going with Yang.
Yeah,
he'll never get anywhere without me. He's too stupid.
Yeah, we I on one hand I felt a little bad about this. I was like, oh man, in ways I was hoping maybe Kazanlu would be like the one FPA guy to actually enjoy a happy retirement.
I mean, but Murai and Patrichev and all that are still somewhere.
Those guys, I don't know if they're gonna write those guys out just yet. I feel like
I'm not saying they're getting written out. I'm just saying they're
right. Well, that's what I mean. Is that I have a feeling those guys will come back eventually. So, I guess what I mean is I was of the major FPA characters, on one hand I'm glad Kazanlu's along for the ride because without Julian, Yang desperately needs somebody he can verbally bounce off of.
Yeah.
But, once again, Kazanlu is dragging his family into what is basically an active war zone.
Yeah. Some FPA goons, if you stay, we'll promote you.
Right, yes.
He's just ugh.
Fuck off.
Also, get a goofy scene of his, children saluting to a guard or something.
Yes, I did see that. But anyways, at the very end, the episode ends with Lebello kind of trying to figure out what to do next.
And we're forcing Bucock back into service.
Yep. They're bringing Bucock out of retirement.
Oh man, rest.
Yeah, another guy you think at least he of all people would maybe get to enjoy a quiet retirement, but also I feel like
Bucock said himself at some point, right? That he doesn't expect to have a quiet life.
No. I mean, I think in many ways, Bucock is a little bit like Merkatz, in the sense that they are both old war horses, and as much as like a guy like Bucock might want to talk about like man, fucking leave me alone. I just want to retire. Like people like him are cut from a certain cloth, like
Yeah.
If the government he serves asks him to serve, he will serve. And if the government asks him to hunt down Yang Wenli, then he will hunt down Yang Wenli. And I feel like it would be very tragic if Bucock mirrors what happened with Admiral Greenhill all those episodes ago. Where
I don't think Bucock. I mean, okay, we said this is Lebello a couple podcasts ago.
No. I don't think Bucock's going to go bad. What I was going to say is I think it would be very tragic if Yang Wenli is once again forced to kill like one of the few like decent rational leaders the FPA has. Just out of out of survival. Because like a guy like Bucock, like of course, you want to hope, oh, maybe Bucock will take the FPA fleet and like immediately defect to Mercats, but like I don't think that's kind of the guy Bucock is, like he well, I guess it depends because like
we always get situation
I think you're right. Anything can change, but I guess the way I feel about it is like Bucock is the speeches he's given in the past, like he believes too strongly in the system. Like,
but also he was absolutely willing to let all of the politicians die for Yang Wenli to shoot Reinhard.
That is true, and I think
he was prepared to physically restrain Schaubtrudick.
That is true. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, again, I think that is why it could go either way. I really do, but I guess I feel like narratively, like just because of. I mean, I'm basing this more on my gut feeling of I feel like this show's like number one priority in the narrative is to fuck over Yang Wenli. And what would fuck over Yang Wenli more than having to kill one of the few FPA admirals he respects? So, I hope it doesn't go that way, but it would be yet another fucking gut punch in the fucking dozens that this show has distributed to Yang Wenli. So,
yeah, and they leave.
Yeah, they bail and I guess begin to make their way to Mercatz's fleet out in hiding.
Yeah,
but enough of that because.
So meanwhile, near Pluto.
Meanwhile,
Wahlen's fleet has arrived at the Sol system.
Yeah, they're approaching Earth.
They get their scans of the Himalayas and find that it's quite a defensible location.
Yeah.
But he also Wahlen, sexy, smooth-voiced Wahlen, doesn't think it's okay to just nuke the place from orbit.
Right, like we get this great bit where you see like the fucking like hotshot junior officers like in case you forgot that like hotshot dumbasses like didn't still exist in the Empire after the Golden Bomb dynasty fell.
Yeah,
like we have a great bit here because you see Reinhardt's admirals and you always want to hope that like that mentality starts to trickle down. But we see here with Wahlen's fleet that lieutenants, they're all still cut from that same cloth of Empire dumbassery. Right, like let's just nuke them. Like fucking whatever. Like we don't care about survivors, right?
There's no artistry in that.
Right, we get Wahlen talking more in this one scene than he has ever in the entirety of this show.
He's been around since the beginning. Like
he was one of the first
opening.
Yeah, like Wahlen was like one of the first admirals to join.
Like, when we tried to name everyone in the opening, I probably couldn't tell you which one was Wahlen.
No,
I knew there was a Wahlen.
I remember seeing Wahlen in that lineup, but like I think it was entirely valid that we didn't recognize it because he, at least in season 1, he was one of the most unremarkable. I think. Like one of our very helpful commenters told us what Wahlen did, and I hate to admit, but I've already forgotten.
So during the
it was something during Amlitzer, like
at some point there was when the Empire was like fully invading the FPA. At some point they needed supplies, and we're like, oh, there's this fleet of supply ships. Let's go take those supplies. But Yang Wenli had rigged them all with bombs.
Oh, did Wahlen fall for that too? Right. Yeah. Right, both Lennenkampf and Wahlen fall for that trap. I feel like though the thing I get from Wahlen, at least from his
the difference between the two there was that Lennenkampf went after like transport ships, and Wahlen was like, we'll take the supplies and leave the transfer ships alone.
Right,
And
yes,
then the
yes.
supplies blew up.
Yes, and then the supplies blew up anyways. Turns out that the greatest FPA trick of all is, surprise, there's bombs in everything.
Bombs in here alone. Bombs in the supply containers. Bombs in the transport ships.
The bombs are just like the Rosenritter. They're
You
in
know,
the vents, they're in the walls.
What's his name really wanted to succeed in killing Reinhardt. He should just put a bomb inside Braunschweig's body.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot.
But, man, it's a real, I won't mind talking about it here. We usually don't talk about, quote unquote current events, but they recently announced some more information about season 2 of DNT.
Yes.
About the new movies.
Try to say it by all means.
Oh no! I'm not going to try and say it. I changed my mind halfway through that. I can't pronounce that name for fucking shit. But I'm very curious how they will adapt certain things. How will the one I'm because we're talking about bombs, like the one I'm very much most curious about is how do you think they're gonna handle Kirk Yice's death in DNT? Like, is it gonna be as fucking overblown and ridiculous? Like, probably not.
In
like
DNT, it might be even more ridiculous.
Well, I guess is like, do you think he's still gonna pull a bazooka out of Braunschweig's corpse, or is it gonna be like what's a DNT version of that?
Right.
Or maybe the DNT version is just fucking. He pulls a fucking a fucking mandarin, and he's just like fisting 5 rings on each hand, and just fucking laser blasting all of them or something. I don't know, but I am kind of curious. Like as much as I think some of at least Gel and Marlon don't seem to care much for DNT. I feel like I've always had a bit of a soft spot for it just because it did get us into the series in the first place.
It was the thing where we were like, oh, we've heard so much about the old one. I guess let's watch the remake to see what we think.
Right, and the fact that even the supposedly, I will admit, inferior remake still got us interested enough to try out the original, I think.
Yeah.
Speaks to the validity of some of the ideas it plays with. But, anyways,
so Wahlen basically says, no, we need to do this thoroughly.
Yeah.
Earth's not going anywhere.
Right, and we need to do this right, which I think tells me that, I feel like this is a good, my joke is that Wahlen's speech here is like the BioWare character introduction dialogue.
Yes.
Where in 5 sentences, he immediately sums up, his character's personality and ideology.
A, there's no artistry in nuking it from orbit. B, it's not going anywhere. We'll just come up with a good strategy. C, everyone on my team can have this wonderful vintage wine.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I wonder if I'm starting to get real fanfic headcanony here, but I wonder if you were to do the character relationship diagram of all the admirals. Do you think Wahlen and Mecklinger are best friends?
Sure.
Because I feel like the way Wahlen talks about this, I feel like him and Mecklinger probably get along. Talking about artistry and
pretty chill.
Yeah, and pretty chill dudes. But
as we see, Wahlen's pretty chill even when people are coming at him with knives.
Yeah, speaking of failed assassination attempts, a real sketchy looking Empire dude with a fucking whips out a knife and decides to have a go at Wahlen. Unfortunately, Wahlen is not
his arm.
Yeah, it catches with his arm, which is pretty fucking top tier. But I was gonna say I think tragically puts Wahlen below Royenthal in terms of CQC capability.
True.
But he does block the knife with his arm, but
manages to.
Yeah, unfortunately the knife was poisoned, which sends Wahlen into a coma.
Yep, and they just cut his arm off.
Which is a very funny, to me, I thought this would have greater consequences. I thought the big thing that was going to happen here is oh no, Wahlen's unconscious, and now his dipshit hotshot junior
but he wakes up later in the episode.
Officers are going to fuck everything up. But no, Wahlen wakes up in time for the invasion anyways, just one arm short.
While he is asleep, we get to get a look at our Earth infiltration squad here.
Yes. It's been a couple weeks or something. They said
been almost 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Days,
Yeah, they've been doing chores for the Earth cult, trying to figure out a way to access the data room.
Yep. And Julian meets with Poplin in the mess hall, and it's like they're relating their plans, but some dude fucking freaks out, flips the
Yeah,
table.
starts fucking going nutso, just
Right.
tossing tables in the room. It's
The
just
FBA or Earth Cult guys have to come in with their tasers and shut him down.
and I feel like, and this is the scene where we finally get to see the true duality of Poplin,
Right.
because not
Poplin powers up.
yeah, like Poplin powers up because, again, I want to say, not 1 minute before the scene we talk about,
They're
Poplin is
talking
talking
about
about
babes.
how is talking about babes and how there are no ladies in his group, and like he hates it. And then literally on a dime, like fucking when this dude is flipping out, manages to accurately deduce what type of toxin this Earth cult member has been poisoned by, just based purely on like
His
visual
reaction.
identification of his reaction and behavior. And it's just like, what?
When Poplin, when Poplin has to put all of his horny energy into being a soldier, he's the most powerful soldier.
Yes, and like I, maybe it's because we've been watching Evangelion lately, but like I don't know if it's like I think Masato is giving me Poplin vibes or vice versa.
See what this
Like,
whole episode, I was getting like Lupin the Third vibes from Poplin.
oh sure. I guess I meant more thematically, like
Right, okay,
these
yeah.
people who are like total fucking fuck ups, but like when it's business time,
Turn it on.
they turn it on like nobody else does. Like Poplin immediately grabs Julian and rushes him to the bathroom and says like,
Working
we
on
gotta
our
like
food. We cannot drink any of the water.
like we gotta get, like, we are being slowly poisoned by brain control drugs.
uh, right.
Turns out the
Oh,
twist.
that drug that's used for brainwashing in both the Empire and Alliance, says Julian.
Yes, turns out. Turns out the real reason for the Earth cult's influence is not like the widespread like applicability of dogma and religion even in the future. Turns out that religion isn't compelling because of like scripture or preaching.
We should have drugs, man.
Turns out religion is compelling in the future because of mind control
Yeah,
drugs.
it's the opiate of the masses.
Yes,
Literally.
yes. The Earth cult is quite literally the opiate of the masses, as we find out, which is a very like on one hand, I'm a little disappointed because like I kind of love the idea of the Earth cult being this proof that like extremist dogmatic religions will persist even into the future because people are intrinsically like always going to be drawn to these like
Enter all type of thing.
yeah, I kind of liked that idea. Like, oh, that's why the Earth cult is still compelling because, like, and I guess the thing I would say is like I think that still holds true.
Right.
Like, because if you think about it, they can't
They're giving everybody drugs.
right, they can't poison every single Earth cult member, right? Like, I'm sure, like I'm sure, like the like
Probably a right wing group. Like Job True, probably not not drugged. Like he's
yeah.
just doing it because
I,
it's helpful to him.
Yeah, totally. I think that like I guess now that I'm talking it through here, I guess it's more like I guess the thing they explain here is that like the hardcore like Earth cult zealots though, those dudes are fucking hopped up.
People
Like
will run straight at walls to kill themselves by slamming their head.
yes, or like we'll rush, Empire goons with laser guns with fucking daggers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so,
Julian as Poplin basically like, how come you know so much shit? Poplin
and
says, I don't only chase skirts, I'm literally a walking museum.
yes, he says he's a walking museum of life experiences. And I
Okay,
just got to ask,
tell me more. I want to know about this.
like, Pablo, what were you getting up to, like, before all this fucking Yang Wenli shit?
What ladies have you slept with where you learned this?
Right, like, I mean, that's a thing, right? Like, the most popular answer would be he learned this from sleeping with somebody.
Right.
But I don't know, man. This Throw the like fucking Poplin prequel spin-off onto the list of Legend of Galactic Heroes spin-offs I wish existed.
Oh man.
Like fucking like I want to know what kind of fucking crazy shit Poplin got up to that turned him into
That makes it so he can see, he can tell what poison they're using.
yes.
Just by ugh.
And I realize to those listening that we're probably just getting hung up on a very like minute detail, and we're not like actually like annoyed with it. We just find it like endlessly entertaining. Just
Vahlen wakes up and is remarkably like even keeled about missing an arm.
yes. Like all of Valen's reaction basically amounts to him like looking at his stump where his arm used to be and being like, "Oh."
I mean, considering like Metal Gear Solid 5, Big Boss fucking freaks out when he sees he's got no arm.
No, it turns out that Vahlen, objectively more emotionally even keeled than Big Boss. But yeah, I mean, also, well, to be fair, like in the Legend of the Galactic Heroes world, they have cybernetics.
It's true. Overside's got cool cybernetic eyes,
right? And I think Vahlen even literally asks, like, "Well, how soon will the prosthetic be ready?" And they're like, "It'll take a couple days."
Yeah,
which is like, what? Okay, damn.
Okay, yeah, sure. And they try to interrogate the would-be assassin, who's just like, "How dare you defile Earth!"
Right. Yeah, like, yeah. So right after we see we get the brainwashing revelation, all of a sudden the extremely erratic behavior of Earth Cult zealots begins to make some more sense, I guess.
They talk about Conrad Linzer.
Yes, they bring him up, but then they don't actually. Do they? Does he even show up though? Like
the guy who leads the charge on the.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Right, it's kind of like
not shown up much. I think he was criticized as number 2.
Right. I guess it's just like it was a weird tangent to me because he like Valen's basically just like, isn't there somebody else on this ship who has a prosthetic? And like they're like, yeah, Conrad Linzer, but that doesn't really have anything to do with like what he's doing in the episode.
And Valen's like, oh, cool, send him in.
Yeah. But I will say, I will happily eat crow from last episode of the podcast where I thought that maybe Vahlen was fucking doomed. But I feel like losing an arm actually adds to his plot armor.
Now it just makes him cooler.
Yeah. It's the badass Scar effect. Like, you fool,
you only made me more powerful.
Right, exactly. Vahlen can only get stronger and cooler from here on out. Like, if this time to go back to baseless speculation mode. If Vahlen does not at least once in this entire OVA bust out a hidden like gadget out of his robot arm, I'll be so disappointed. Like, it doesn't have to be a gun. Like, I'm fine if it's not a laser. I wish it would be a laser. I fucking so desperately need like somebody's like death to Reinhardt, and then Valen's like fucking points his robot finger at them and like shoots a laser out of it. Right. But I understand if that doesn't happen. But please, like have him at least like pull out like fucking, I don't know, like like a memory stick or like something hidden inside that arm, because I need that so badly.
Yeah, but, we get this pretty tense sequence here where Julian's coughing in his bed, sweating because he's going through withdrawal from the mind control drugs.
Yeah.
And like he has curtains drawn, but the Earth Cult goons keep coming by to saying like, we need to take you to the infirmary, man. You're sick. Yeah. We'll help you.
Right. And Julian finally agrees, when he agrees, I think, is when he looks in his room, he realizes this area is too well surveyed. Like, I need to find a place like that's more private. And turns out that Poplin and Mashenko were thinking the same thing because they are also sitting in the doctor's office. Like, there's almost a feeling of them like looking at Julian and being like, "What took you so long? Like, this was obviously the plan, right?"
Right. But and, the doctor's like, "Man, so many people were sick today. I wonder what's making y'all sick." Poplin just goes off. It's like, finally had enough.
Right. Poplin just fucking pops off Poplin pops off on the
Yeah,
doctor.
throws a syringe
Fucking
in this dude's eye.
yeah, this dude busts out like a laser scalpel or something. Like
Right.
fucking, they just, like I said, Poplin and the rest of them, they're decent at CQC, but
And Julian fucking drop kicks a motherfucker.
yo, fucking yeah, I forgot about that. Oh my god, just
Mashenko punches a man so hard he flies across the room into the wall.
yeah. Like I said, no, they're not. I'm not saying they're weak. I'm not saying they're not a big deal. I'm just saying
Right.
against Mr. Schenkopp, I will single-handedly hold the
Right.
staircase for
Well,
12 hours.
Julian's so young, give him time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyways, it turns out that at the same time that they are busting up this medical office, the Empire Vanguard has landed and are shooting their way through the Earth Cult HQ.
Right. Because basically, I guess Julian and Poplin and all that like called in somehow. Said say, oh yeah, we're infiltrating from Fazan. Oh, you guys are here to beat up the Earth Cult. We'll help you, buddy. I
Right?
guess
Yes,
they straight up talk to Conrad Linzer, I think, and
yeah.
say yeah, we're infiltrating. Fuck the Earth Cult. We'll help
Yeah,
you.
I kind of, it's definitely I mean, that is that Julian Brand quick thinking on the fly that we've become so familiar with. This is not the first time Julian has pretended to be somebody else to
Yes.
get the one up on somebody.
There's this a goofy sequence where Valen's this ravine's probably big enough to land, right, Captain? And his cool bearded captain takes the wheel, dramatically steers the ship so they can latch onto the mountain.
It's pretty ridiculous.
So that they can launch the Panzer Grenadiers.
Yes, so we finally have a name for those power armored Empire guys that usually we see getting schooled on by the Rosenritter, but turns out that when against fucking
Dudes
whack jobs, turns out that the Panzer Grenadiers actually are not to be fucked with. Because
we just get a completely absurd sequence of them charging the base and just dudes rushing them with knives or
yes, and the knives are literally just breaking off on their armor.
Right, people blowing themselves up with grenades to get after the troops, or locking the doors and shooting into nerve gas.
Yeah, or the occasional Panzer Grenadier being a dumbass and lifting up their helmet, letting them get stabbed in the face. Which, come on, y'all got to know better about this. If your name isn't Schenkopp, don't lift your helmet up in the middle of a fight.
Right.
But yeah, it's basically just a fucking slaughter. I mean, I would say mostly the Panzer Grenadiers are fucking up the Earth Cult, but I guess it's one of those things of the Earth Cult fights in such a fucked up, desperate way that
right, they go as I say, they have no fear of death.
Right, they literally collapse the ceiling onto a bunch of Earth Cult and Panzer Grenadier dudes fighting, just crushing them all together.
Right.
It's fucking ridiculous.
A lot of shots of axes tearing through squishy humans.
Yes. If y'all remember back in the days of the capturing of Iserlohn, when the Rosenritter dudes just literally chop dudes in half with their monoblade axes, we get a little bit of that again here, where just the Panzer Grenadiers are just chopping the fuck out of these guys. It's
something.
It's something, man.
Yeah, and then they hit the flood button.
Yes. They decided to just flood the whole damn thing.
And then Julian, as they found the data center, Julian copies all the data, erases it after himself so that the Empire doesn't get their hands on it.
Right. Again, Julian's he's what a smart boy.
Smart guy.
Such a smart boy.
And the Earth Cult self-destructs their base, pretty much.
Yeah. They
down on themselves.
Yeah, they literally collapsed the mountain on itself.
You see that De Villiers and some of his goons escape.
Yes. So even though this is nominally the end of the main Earth Cult headquarters, I think the implication is clear that the Earth Cult is not necessarily out of the game just yet.
Yeah. Shengo blocks explosion for Julian.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But yeah, and then they managed to escape. or at least
Yep.
it looks like it.
They get out with the Imperial troops, and the mountain collapses, and that's where we end, I guess.
Yeah. Again, I think if there is any theme to this trio of episodes, it is crazy shit happening. This is the like wildest fucking trio of
Yeah, like
episodes.
not a goddamn, not 2 months after the end of the FPA and the coronation of Kaiser Reinhard. Young Willie's already busted out of prison.
Not only has Yang Wenli busted out of jail, but the Rosenritter have blown up the freeway at least twice. They have Lennenkampf is dead. Schenkopp hacked his way through half the Imperial army in a single night. Like the Earth Cult headquarters is gone.
Yeah.
Like this is just a trio of happenings, man. Like shit is going on, and like again, like we all thought, like, oh well, season 3 will be about Reinhard consolidating his power, so it'll be more about like politics and the burden of leadership. Turns out fucking
axe murder, and
I thought they would scale down the axe murder. Honestly, I'm very surprised. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it's wild, man. It's in many ways, like it's episodes like these that like really remind you that like fucking
as high-minded as the show can be sometimes. Also, people heads getting cut in half with axes.
Yeah, this show just knows how to go for it sometimes in a way that like few other shows are capable of doing.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, so am I. But I guess with that said, I mean, as you said, maybe not as high-minded of a trio of episodes, so not as much to discuss here. But so I think we might even call this a podcast soon. Do you have any like closing thoughts, Iro? Like any lingering tangents?
I'm interested to see how Julian's going to talk his way out of leaving. Like hanging out with Imperial troops now. Like
yeah. The thing I was actually going to say earlier in the podcast was like I was surprised that not a single like Imperial soldier there was like, hey, what?
Yeah, aren't you Julian Mintz?
Or not even Julian Mintz, just, hey, aren't you the dude that captured our destroyer?
Right.
Like, just like some random guy who happened to be a crew of that Imperial destroyer happens to be here on Earth in Valen's fleet. It's like, wait a minute, that's the dick who captured our ship. Julian's going to have to talk his way out of that one. And, I mean, I think Julian might be a bit lucky because, like, he is here with, what seemed to be more rational Empire leaders. It's Wahlen or Conrad Linzer. Like these are dudes who, I think Julian can talk his way through. Like if he gets caught, I'm saying like, but yeah, I do wonder. I do wonder how he's going to get off planet. Like, I mean, again, like Konev and the Cap and those guys are all still there. So like.
Yeah,
I don't know if the Empire found the ship. Like, they might just still be hanging out by that lake. So, we're talking about this. It could just be literally as simple as just Julian's like,
let those Fazan guys go. Bye.
Yeah, like, all right, well, thanks for the help, guys. We'll see you around. Like, nope, we certainly didn't find any information there. Such a darn shame the base blew up. Yeah, that would be very... Yes, if Valen was like, no, come to the Empire. Like, I think Reinhard would love to meet you or something. I'd be like, oh, that's a little awkward. But fucking, oh man. I mean, we always talk about how badly we wanted Yang to end up on Odin. But oh man, imagine Julian on Odin.
Hey,
man,
you can finally get new perspective that he was supposed to get on Fazan.
Yeah. Or like, oh man, the flowers of Iserlohn lives on.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe Julian ends up there and meets all these hot noble ladies, or something. But
also spin-off Flowers of Heinesen.
Or maybe it's like the Flowers of Odin like expansion pack for the Flowers of Iserlohn. Sure. It adds one new girl who's like, a rich Ojo-sama from Odin. Add that to Julian's harem. And once again, if I accidentally predicted another character in this show like I did with Karen, then I I will be very happy. So
Uh,
we'll see how that plays out. But
yeah. I think what we're gonna get next is recapture Neither Alone.
yeah, I think that might be Young's next move. Like
As the natural next step here for Young.
right, because like without a fleet or without much of a fleet, like Young needs like a giant increase in like tangible military firepower, and what better choice than Iserlohn, the freaking town bicycle of the galaxy. But yeah. I think with all that said, I think that's gonna be a podcast.
Yeah.
So let's take care of the housekeeping. So as always, you can listen to this podcast and read the rest of our posts on theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and everywhere else podcasts are bought and sold. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube. As always, we'd love it if you liked and subscribed or left a review or whatever. We appreciate each and every single bit of it. You can watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes on High Dive and VRV. And I think that does it.
Yeah.
So
I think so.
Yeah. So as always, thank you all for listening. Iro, as always, thank you for accompanying me on this journey.
Thank you.
And until next time, we will see you amongst the sea of stars.